Topic 5 will focus on content about the use of natural learning environment practices in early intervention. More specifically, we will discuss the importance of everyday learning for young children and their families, the research to support contextualized practices, and strategies for successful implementation of this approach.
As briefly mentioned in Topic 4, natural learning environment practices are described as how early childhood practitioners provide supports and resources to assist families and care providers in promoting child learning within the context of child interest-based everyday activity settings. This part of the framework informs the content of interactions between professionals and families.
When practitioners focus on assisting parents and care providers in being responsive as they support child participation within interest-based everyday activities, child learning happens. Because everyday activities occur every day, frequent opportunities exist for children to practice their existing abilities and learn new skills with the natural and enhanced supports that exist for them with the important people in their life doing things they need to do, have to do, and enjoy or want to do.
The conceptual framework for natural learning environment practices, modified from Duntz 2006, is depicted in this slide. 3 primary characteristics define natural learning environment practices, the first being the use of everyday activities as the primary source for supporting child learning. The second characteristic is the use of child interests and assets as the guiding force for supporting child participation within the child's and family's everyday life. The third characteristic of natural learning environment practices is parent responsiveness, or how parents interact with their children during everyday learning opportunities.
Research tells us that for natural learning environment practices to be most effective, all 3 characteristics of the practices, everyday learning opportunities, child interests and assets, and parent responsiveness, must be present.
The following slides will further explore the characteristic of everyday learning opportunities in early intervention.
Simply put, everyday activities are defined as the experiences and opportunities that occur as part of everyday life. Consider the pictures on this slide as examples of natural learning opportunities. What are some of the learning opportunities that exist when a young child enjoys making art with a parent or weighing produce at the grocery store? These may seem like simplistic examples, but consider the vast array of learning across developmental domains as well as the natural frequency of the opportunities within a child's day or week. For the child and parent making art, consider the motor learning opportunities, both gross and fine, as well as potential communication skills supported as they discuss the child's painting, share stories about the picture, or simply describe what is being created. Further, social, emotional, and cognitive learning opportunities exist as the parent admires the child's efforts and displays a variety of emotions. The child has the opportunity to feel self-confidence, pride, and ownership as the parent attends to the child during the process of making the art, as well as the final product the child shares. As they discuss colors, concepts, and details about the picture, the child's opportunities for expanding his current knowledge and abilities are exponential. Most importantly, all of these experiences occur between the child and an adult important to him, an adult who will be there when early intervention cannot.
As mentioned previously, everyday activity settings are so valuable because of the repetition and wide variety of learning opportunities that are inherent within the activity. This slide provides an example for you to consider regarding the wide variety of learning opportunities that are afforded a child when interacting with the family's pet dog.
Participation in everyday opportunities is how young children learn, as opposed to a simulated or set up activity like drilled practice of certain words or sounds, naming objects on flashcards, or even playing a practitioner-led game to encourage longer utterances. Let's instead consider situations and examples of how parents can promote communication development using everyday learning opportunities.
An example of contextualized learning when cooking with mom affords the child repeated opportunities to use sounds, existing and new words, as well as to expand on those words by exposure to new terms while exploring recipes. In contrast, sitting the child down and asking him to repeat words or word combinations based on the child's deficits is decontextualized and skill-focused and does not produce the same positive benefits as cooking with mom.
During natural playtimes, a multitude of communication-based learning opportunities naturally unfold. As parents and other care providers learn to maximize their natural interactions or learn new ways of being responsive, learning opportunities multiply so far beyond what a therapy session can offer when scheduled 1, 2, or even 3 times a week.
Consider the variety of learning opportunities for a given child experienced during a trip to the local grocery store. During this activity, the child is naturally exposed to so many learning opportunities for communicating and participating on multiple levels. In contrast, think about how different this outing would look for the child if the trip had been to the therapy clinic. Decontextualized learning cannot compete with the amount, variety, and quality of learning opportunities afforded to a child within an everyday context, such as a trip to the local market.
This slide contrasts contextualized and decontextualized learning for a child that attends a community parent-child cooking group to the experience of the child participating in one-on-one speech therapy. During the cooking group activities, as well as within additional food-related conversation, such as those that occur during meal times at home and in the community, as well as other opportunities as part of meal preparation, grocery shopping, and even gardening, the child's opportunities to communicate about meaningful, interest-based topics are enhanced. Dependence on only therapist-child interactions limits child learning to the therapy session and any homework the parent might be able to do as instructed by the therapist. To ensure we are clear here, the practitioner still has a role, and that role is to ensure parent competence and confidence in promoting child learning when the practitioner is not present.
Based on the examples that we've discussed, what are some advantages to contextualized learning? What are some disadvantages to decontextualized learning? Take a few minutes to consider the information on this slide, but also other examples that come to mind.
Following your consideration of the advantages of contextualized learning, please pause and take some time to consider how you would answer the questions on this slide. Do you currently work with young children and their families to support child participation in everyday activity settings? If not, how can you move your practices forward to do so? If you are currently supporting families within everyday context, how are you using all of the possible learning opportunities for the child in your work? How does the time you visit a family vary from week to week in order to support child participation across a variety of naturally occurring settings? How are you supporting the child's participation with other important family members and friends? If you are challenged by these questions, talk with your early intervention coordinator or another team member to share ideas and experiences.
As we revisit the framework and characteristics of natural learning environment practices, let's consider the important role of child interests and assets.
Child interests are defined on this slide according to Dunst, 2006. Remember, child interests include people, objects, special events, and activities that hold a child's attention, motivate him or her, and make a child smile, work hard, and stay focused.
Use of child interest is critical simply because if a child is interested in what's going on, he or she is more likely to participate for a longer period of time, thus increasing the amount of learning opportunities afforded to the child. We often get asked the questions, what about children with autism? Do we just let them do what they want all day? Or what about the activities the parents want and need the child to take part in, but the child doesn't like or want to be a part of, like riding in a car seat, brushing teeth, or sitting at the dinner table? These are valid questions. Remember, we're talking about child participation in everyday activity settings, and unfortunately for the children, a typical day or week does contain activities that they may not find enjoyable or interesting. We share 2 points for your consideration. 1, for these less inviting activities, How can we use child interest and assets to support the child's participation? And 2, whenever possible, are we focusing on the interest-based activities? Let us share a few examples. Consider a situation in which a child loves playing a turn-taking game with a parent in which each one makes a funny noise or sound. When it's time for the child to brush his teeth, however, he begins to run away and scream or hide. Typically during this situation, the parent becomes frustrated or even upset and takes on a more forceful role with the child to get his teeth brushed. How could the child's interest of the noise-making interactive game be used to make toothbrushing less noxious to him? The parent might try initiating the game prior to or during toothbrushing time and expand upon the concepts of the game in such a way that the child is interested enough to comply with the toothbrushing. The bottom line is, if the child is engaged and happy, learning is happening. If the child is upset and fighting the situation, learning opportunities are minimal.
The third characteristic of natural learning environment practices is parent responsiveness. Let's take a further look into the details of this practice component.
We provide several sources of information in the following slides. In this slide, parent responsiveness is defined as the parent's interactions being intentional and purposeful, with the outcome being supportive child participation in everyday activity settings in order to promote child learning, growth, and development. As you read through the following information, consider your role in supporting parents. The information guides us in the importance of decreasing practitioner-child interactions and increasing parent-child interactions as a means for supporting child learning.
Research tells us that we can have no greater impact on child development than through our support of parents in being encouraging, nurturing, and responsive to their children during all aspects of daily life.
Helping parents and other care providers to understand the importance of their interactions with their children and providing support to enhance parents' abilities to be responsive has more of an impact on child developmental outcomes than therapy, regardless of the type or intensity. This is another example of the power of everyday opportunity in parent-child interaction.
In 2009, Jerry Mahoney provided a review of several studies that included over 700 children and their families. 2 key points emerged from his review. 1, parents are the major influence on their children's development, even when they have therapy and educational services. And 2, interventions that promote responsive parenting are the most effective.
Mahoney, 2009, further concluded that these 2 points held true regardless of the type or severity of the child's developmental disability.
The notion of building the capacity of parents and other care providers is paramount. Parent-implemented practices are emerging as the approach best suited to support the growth and development of young children.
We've shared the importance of the role of the parent. Considering this information, what is your impression of the role of the practitioner? According to current research and Part C of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, the role of the practitioner is to support the capacity of parents and other care providers to promote the growth and development of the children in their care. This happens when parents are confident and competent in supporting child participation within and across high-frequency activity settings with development-enhancing qualities.
Let's take a few minutes to review the steps for using natural learning environment practices. Step 1 guides us to focus on using everyday opportunities at home and in the community to identify interest-based options for participation. Step 2 informs us that whenever possible, we should select activities that offer high opportunity for interest-based learning. Step 3 instructs us to then use strategies and supports that increase the child's participation in the activity settings that we've selected for intervention. Step 4 reminds us of the importance of supporting parent responsiveness for all parent-child interactions. And Step 5 encourages us to evaluate the effectiveness of our supports in partnership with parents and other care providers.
This photo is a nice reminder of the overall outcome of natural learning environment practices. Increased participation in everyday activity settings yields enhanced learning, skill development, and generalization within and across people and environments.
We encourage you to take a few moments and make some notes about the specific outcomes of natural learning environment practices for young children and their families. Write down your thoughts related to the two examples provided on this slide. What are the learning opportunities for a child when sharing how to play a favorite game with her cousins? What are some examples of learning that can occur when singing fun songs with friends? Once you've thought about these specific examples, consider how your practices match the approach described in this topic. If you have questions, please consider talking with your early intervention coordinator or another team member to get more information.
In addition to seeking support from your early intervention coordinator and team, take a look at this resource. The document contains a great deal of helpful information as well as 5 checklists that you can use to self-assess how you are doing implementing natural learning environment practices with the young children and families you support. You could also invite a team member to use the checklist during an observation of you during a home or community visit.
This slide provides you with even more resources that we hope you will find beneficial as you explore additional information about natural learning environment practices. You have now completed Topic 5. When you are ready, move on to Topic 6, Coaching Interaction Style.